Hello, it's Sydney Rose and I'm back with another testing out acrylic paint markers video. On our last paint pen testing video, we tested out the shuttle art markers versus the well markers. Put the Posca down for a minute. And actually, I technically haven't even filmed that. I'm filming the intros both at the same time. So, you know, wearing the same hoodie, so you're gonna see me in the same hoodie in both videos because I'm filming the intros at the same time. So I actually haven't drawn with either yet, but that's okay. As I explained in the last video though, the well markers have a bullet tip and a brush tip. So this time, instead of testing the brush tip against the shuttle art markers, we're going to be testing the bullet tip of the well markers, can't talk. We're going to be testing the bullet tip of the well markers against the bullet tip of the Posca markers and see how they hold up against each other. So let's get to it and put both of these markers to the test. Let's go. Well, folks, here we go again with voicing over a video that I made in fall of 2025 in February 2026. Whoops. If you aren't new here, you know the deal. But if you are new here, I filmed a lot of testing paint pen videos all in the same night, and other projects got pushed ahead of these videos, but I'm finally getting around to finishing them up and voicing them over and finally posting them. I've learned a lot about audio quality and editing since then, so keep in mind my intro was filmed in September. I'm much more confident when it comes to talking on camera now, but everyone has to start somewhere, right? But here's the rundown of this experiment. The videos playing now are from past experiments I've done so you guys can get a feel for it, and like I said in the intro, I'm going to be testing Posca acrylic markers versus Wellcob acrylic markers. For the sake of pronunciation at the time, I'm going to be calling the Wellcob markers well markers. Since the well markers have a dual tip, in this video I will be testing the bullet tip of the well markers against the Posca markers since they also have a bullet tip. Now for why I titled this video Testing Discontinued Acrylic Markers. During my time editing and releasing the testing acrylic markers videos, I have discovered that the well markers are no longer sold on Amazon or anywhere for that matter. I have screenshots from Amazon when I bought them originally that proves when they did exist, they were around $33. I'm not really sure why they're not sold anymore, and I'm really not sure how long they were even sold in the first place. If you are an internet sleuth and want to look further into it, let me know what you find. So when I filmed this originally, you could buy these markers, but since it took me so long to edit these videos and actually get them up on YouTube, the videos actually outlived the markers. But the good thing is, you can still buy Posca markers, and I will have a link in the description for them if you're interested in trying those out after this video. Also, by the way, none of these products in this video are sponsored. Posca markers come in many different packs, but you can typically find them averagely in a pack of 8 basic colors for around $20. I originally discovered Posca markers when the artist Frankie Zombie came and visited my students and gifted me a class set for them to use. This jump-started my love of acrylic markers, and I've discovered so many different brands through TikTok sponsorships and my own research. So let's get to it and start the experiment. I started with the well markers. For testing paint markers, I like to use the same layered smiley face design I came up with because it's a good way to test how opaque the markers are and how well they layer against each other. I try to color match the best that I can, but there will be variation amongst different brands, so you can never be perfect. I chose cool colors for this experiment, and as I've seen throughout my time testing the well markers, they don't do very well with layering lighter colors over darker colors, so I attempted to keep all of my colors in this video very neutral tones to see how well they would layer over each other. As a rule of thumb, I always like to layer acrylic markers at least twice so they're not as streaky, but with the well markers, it seems like I can never layer them enough to get them completely opaque. After making so many of these videos, I do have a theory about this. The well markers are free flow paint markers, which means you don't have to activate them by pushing down on the tip of the marker to release the paint inside the capsule of the marker. I think the well markers settle while they're not being used and the paint separates inside the marker, and since there's no shaker for the activation, the paint releases unevenly onto the paper. Other free flow paint markers do a great job at paint control, so again, that's just a theory, an art theory. I will never live up to the voiceover talents of MatPat and all of the other amazing creators over on the Team Theorist channels, Please tell me you guys understood that reference. It was way too perfect not to add it in. Okay, but back to the experiment. I took a risk and chose a lighter blue to cover the dark blue smiley faces, and I'm not gonna lie, it covered them much better than I was expecting. Maybe the blue pigments in these markers are just thicker than the other light colors, I'm not really sure. The light blue still didn't have complete coverage, but I still think this was the best light colored well marker that I've tested so far. And now time for the reveal. Alright, and here is the finished bullet tip against the Posca Markers well markers. So I do think I like how the bullet tip turns out. It's very crisp and clean, and the colors did go over each other and layer very well. I do wish there were some parts that weren't as streaky, but I had no issues with the lighter colors over the darker colors, which is a plus, and I'm sure I'll explain in my voiceover as well. But on to the Posca Markers. Let's go. You can't even see my... There we go. I gotta zoom out a little bit more, but now let's go. Now it's time to start on the Posca markers. I started off by taping the borders of my paper to prevent the paper from curling, and so I had room to test the colors on the border like I always do, and I got started with my dark blue for the first set of diagonal squiggle designs. Posca markers are far more opaque than well markers, but they take forever to dry. This can raise the risk of smudging and smearing if you're trying to work fast. Since Posca markers are not free-flowing paint markers, you have to activate them. This can sometimes cause the paint to release from the capsule inside too quickly, causing a spill or causing the paper to get too damp, risking tearing it. It took me a while and a lot of practice to get a good handle on how to use Posca markers. I found that the best way to color with these is just to draw lines next to each other, because coloring like you would a regular marker leads to the paper getting too damp and ripping, or particles on the paper picking up and leaving a strange texture to the paper, which is not the look we want for this specific design. And just like with the well markers, I like to do at least 2 layers, and Posca markers have no issues being opaque after 2 layers. Honestly, a lot of the Posca marker colors are opaque after 1, and the second layer is just to eliminate any streaks left over from the drawing the lines over and over again technique. So you really do get a smooth and even look with Posca markers, and they still have my award for most opaque acrylic marker I've tested out in this series so far. And as I mentioned before, I do try to color match the best I can, but there are always going to be a few discrepancies. The Posca markers are significantly brighter than the well markers color-wise for this experiment. This was the closest color match I could get with the markers that I had though. Art is in the eye of the beholder and very subjective, but I personally like the brighter colors from the Posca markers better than the less saturated colors of the well markers for this experiment, but maybe you like the colors in the well markers piece better. It's really up to personal preference, and for this design, I have to go with the Posca markers on color personally. But it was time to take off the painter's tape and reveal the finished pieces of my last experiment with testing the well markers against another brand of paint marker. Okay, and here's the finished with the Posca pen for the bullet tip. I'm filming this on a different night, and I realized that when I had picked out the colors before, it's not quite a color match, but it's close enough, and we're going for, you know, the differences between the bullet tips and how they draw. So here's the difference. Here is the well, here's the Posca. What I noticed more while drawing, these are definitely still not as opaque and they're still a little bit more streaky, so the well markers are, and then the Posca definitely has better coverage, but it takes a lot longer to dry, so, you know, I had some issues right there where I had to go back over the purple. But what do you think? Which one do you think turned out better? And of course, as always, I will put still images of them so you can compare the photograph version. So here are the close-ups of the photographs. Which ones do you guys like better? I'm gonna say, in my personal opinion, I think the Posca markers are the clear winner here. I do like the well markers because there's so many options for the price, and I think these are good for classrooms. I originally started testing the well markers to see if I wanted to use them in my classroom. I did end up using them in my classroom and they worked out great for the most part, but I will say they dried out pretty quickly. I teach high school students, so I would maybe recommend these for maybe an elementary classroom since they're not a super messy paint marker and it can be a good introduction marker for your students. But since you can no longer find the brand, I can't really recommend them because you can't buy them, but you never know, maybe they'll come back one day. Wouldn't it be kind of ironically funny if they did a relaunch on the day I post this video about testing out discontinued acrylic markers? That would be kind of crazy, but you never know. Weirder things have happened. It's a bit bittersweet that this is my last testing well markers against another brand video, but as I mentioned earlier, I am working on more videos with different brands I have discovered over the past few months, along with some more custom blind box videos and potentially another blood painting video. Needless to say, I've got a lot planned. I am so close to 800 subscribers at the time of editing this video, so maybe I'll have reached that by the time this video comes out. So if so, thank you so much for 800 subscribers, and if not, I'm still so thankful for all 795 of you following me on my YouTube journey. If there are any other types of art videos or materials you'd like to see, let me know in the comments, and if you're here for my vlogs and day trip videos, let me know some cool places that I can check out. But this brings us to the end of the video, so with that, do all of the things that YouTubers ask you to do, so like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next Thursday. Bye!